For our next paper, we are going to move away from Pompeii to the other side of the Bay of Naples, and Jackie Childress is going to look at Roman harbours, construction, naval and economic role in society.
Good afternoon, everyone. Harbour evolution in the ancient world can be connected by two factors that drives technological innovations, such as changing social needs and rapidly changing technology that became available for construction. Portus Iulius was the first harbour constructed as a base for the Roman Navy at the north end of the peninsula surrounding the Bay of Naples. Harbours built near the cities, such as Baiae, essentially made them the towns with strategic advantages. Finding the harbors that acted as natural ports for Pompeii is difficult due to the many eruptions of Mount Vesuvius since AD 79. A Roman portus, defined by Vitruvius, is a type of harbor that is protected from open water by capes or promontories to create the barriers of natural waterfront. Vitruvius adds that the structure should be equipped with facilities needed for shipping and the exchange of goods. Another style of Roman harbors, the statia, which can be developed with the use of man-made objects, allows for a breakwater protection. The ports that were used at Baiae and Massium allowed for large commercial trade and military activity to fit the definition of a portus. Therefore, defining Portus Iulius as a portus due to the large volume of commercial trade and military ships that used this harbor. This area would have been much more accessible to large ships, with the evidence of ringstones near the Marine Gate that was used for the Republic's navy and their military vessels. Understanding how ports worked in the ancient world allows for a deeper analysis into the role of the Portus Iulius on the Bay of Naples. By bringing in the surrounding area of Baiae, this will establish an origin point to study the construction of the port, while also exploring arguments presented on the construction elements of the portus and statiaes, the vital role the harbors played in economics, and the military purposes surrounding construction. Studying scholarship written on the excavations of the concrete core taken from the submerged structures and other structures found across the Roman Empire have similar findings that show how quickly technology flourished in the ancient world. There has been thorough research conducted on the above questions, many of which have overlapping themes across journal articles and monographs. A typical harbor site is made up of various bays, such as open or enclosed framed headlands, while also having traits of offshore islands or reefs. The Roman harbor evolved due to three distinct changes. The changing characteristics of ships that docked there, how the economic needs of the surrounding town changed, and the advancements of tools and techniques. Speed at which Roman engineers mastered the use of hydraulic concrete and other engineering advancements allowed for harbors to be built in areas for political, economic, or military reasons, compared to the areas that have favored geological features as well. Vitruvius' De Architectura provides clear summaries of early Roman harbor techniques and also defines the unique characteristics of harbor engineering performed in the ancient world. In this section of his work that covers harbor construction, Vitruvius provides a detailed description on the construction methods that use stresses, how hydraulic mortar that allows for concrete to be placed in the framework that is then filled with seawater. He says, those concrete structures that are to be in water must be made in the following fashion. Earth is to be brought in from that region which runs from Cumae to the promontory of Minerva and mixed with mortar and used in these structures. The proportions of 2 parts of earth to 1 of lime. Next, in the designated spot, framework, enclosed by sprout posts and tie beams, is to be let down into the water and fixed firmly into position. Then the area within the bottom below the water is to be leveled and cleaned out, formed a platform by small cross beams. This building is to be carried out on where there is a mixture of aggregate and mortar, as described above, until the space is left for the structure within the form that has been filled. Portus Iulius was constructed under the command of Marcus Agrippa in a rush during the civil wars that occurred at the end of the Republic in 37 BC. There were many engineering challenges that Marcus Agrippa faced in constructing the port, but the achievement outweighed the challenges. The harbor was celebrated by works written by Pliny and Virgil, where both scholars describe it as one of the man-made wonders of Italy. There is an argument in regard to carbon dating performed on a fragment of wood taken from the pillar on the port side of the harbor. The results from the carbon dating yielded a C14 date of 50 BC, meaning that there were some structures in place before Marcus Agrippa constructed Portus Iulius. The structures that surround Baiae, such as the moles and backwaters, were less documented, but the town was a high-traffic area for the bathing and home of the villas for the Roman elite. Imperial Giacomo supports the argument that structures were in place before 50 BC in his article, Harbor Structures of the Augustus Age in Italy. He writes, from literary evidence, scholars know that the region was filled with small and large-scale construction sites. This area included luxury villas of the Roman elite mixed with impressive shipyards that have never been built on such a large scale before. Giacomo continues his arguments of early harbor structures that added were private investors who developed these structures that were also well known in Baiae for fish trading. The carbon dating performed on samples from Portus Iulius supports Giacomo's claim that there are structures located in the harbor before 37 BC in the Marcus Agrippa edition. Roman harbors acted as centers of trade or as staging areas for warships. John Olson's definition of a Roman harbor is a center for technological activity and innovation. Olson strengthens his argument by concentrating on several sites that were well known throughout the excavation or one and two special topics. Along with a detailed analysis of the origin of early harbors, Giacomo develops images, maps, sketches that provides the readers with visual representations. In his analysis of Mycenaeum, he compares the similarities found in the construction of harbors, and Giacomo's align with similar conclusions from other scholars on the composition of the materials used in similar building techniques. The theme of hydraulic materials seen in John Peter Olson's The Technology of Roman Harbors and notes compiled by the Roman Cons Group in 2016 field season in the Journal of Nautical Archaeology. The concrete used in Roman harbors is defined as hydraulic concrete that consists of large irregular stone or tough aggregate that is set into lime in a sand-like volcanic ash mortar that is rich in chemically reactive luminescence. This definition of concrete was used by the Roman Maritime Concrete Study that was established in 2001. There are 3 scholars that compiled notes and data from the 2006 fieldwork season, and those are Christopher Brandon, Robert Holfo, and John P. Olson. These studies developed in an appreciation for concrete and maritime setting during the ancient world, specifically the Romans. A central project for the organization is to investigate the makeup of the material used and the physical properties and the nature of its placement. This group credits the origin of hydraulic concrete for the use of coastal underwater structures within the vicinity of Baiae and therefore the Bay of Naples as a whole. The pile that was used in the construction of Portus Iulius were large cubes or square piers made of concrete that were cast on the seabed. The tops of these structures were still visible, protecting above water level. The pile grouped together in 3 styles in a single line, 2 overlapping rows, to form discontinuous breakwaters or sea defenses to protect the shoreline located at the entrance. An example constructed during the ancient world can be seen at Nicedia on the Bay of Naples. For Portus Iulius, the pile that was found was constructed as a line that abutted from the shoreline and made of concrete. A similar construction can be found on Portus Baianus, also located within the Bay of Naples. Roman harbor engineering was considered groundbreaking technological advancements due to the development of the hydraulic concrete in BC 200. Olson and Holfer expanded on Roman harbor engineering in their article, Ancient Harbors in the Mediterranean, arguing that hydraulic mortar is different from the pozonic additives found in supplements or used as a substitute in silicatic sand. The Roman engineers who worked on harbor structures encountered other materials such as sand, like volcanic ash called pluvius sphodius, or a powder from Puteoli. This material, in the modern form, is considered as sintered ash, is still in use in modern construction sites, and the Italian word has since been anglicized. The use of pluvius puteoli as a valuable construction material was recognized in Virtuous de Architecture. His praise for the material is also echoed by Pliny the Elder in his work Natural History in the sections 16.202 and 35.166, and also Seneca's Questions about Nature. This material allowed for the mortar to set underwater, away from any carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, Any concrete piers or breakwater structures that were once built on a sandy seabed, or in most cases on submerged piles of rubble that date to the 6th century BCE. The study of cores that was also taken from concrete structures that form the Roman harbors have become one way to analyze the composition of the concrete used. In 2006, a team took 5 samples from the submerged Roman harbor structures at Baiae and Lago Lucrunio in the Bay of Naples. These mortar samples were then used to determine the type of concrete used while building. The samples taken from Portus Ulius came from the jetties framing the harbor. The structure and the ones from Portus Baianus and Seneca Famosa have sunk 3 to 5 meters below their original relation to the sea level due to seismic activity. Suggestions made by Gianforta in his article that Pali has sides finished in opus rectum and opus testacium on surfaces that were originally submerged. He further adds that the blocks for these finishes were cast within a double wall perforatum, which was pumped dry, and the difficulties of successfully completing this at 6 meters deep in open sea would be impossible with the technology available. Brandon, Hofler, and Olson take Gianforta's findings with the opus rectum and opus testacium one step further, arguing that the finishes, while hidden beneath the waves of seawater, allow for the concrete core to be protected from further erosion. The conclusions made by the fieldwork team on the core samples taken from Portus Ulius structures found that the concrete used was different from the Portus constructed at Baiae, Seneca Formosa, and other sites studied. This leading to the argument that construction materials were not uniform and workers simply used what was readily available. The findings also supported their initial conclusions that the concrete was laid in rough seawater conditions or that the mortar was too wet when they laid the foundations. Low levels of calcium oxide or silicon dioxide and higher levels of magnesium oxide are found in samples taken from the Caesarea supports that the team concludes that the material was also used in rough seawater conditions. The samples taken from Portus Ulius match these levels and suggest, too, that much seawater was also used in hydraulic fix. It could be argued that Portus Ulius was built in a rush during the Roman Civil War to establish a naval base that was also close to Rome. Harbors such as Portus Ulius are technological marvels built in the ancient world where the advancements of pumping water out of a space to build were not as they are today. It is unclear to fully appreciate the architectural intensity of the portus built at Mycenaeum due to the erosion, volcanic activity in the area, and man-made changes. Gianforta writes that of the breakwater pili that can be seen today, only 4 can be distinguished. These 4 are cut systematically at the center, possibly destroyed from submarines using the port as a refueling station during World War II. These technological advancements made construction of the harbors around the Bay of Naples did not stop at the hydraulic concrete used, but opened in cities around the bay. John Olson argues that particular regard given to what was exported and imported through the harbors, but not what was made commerce possible. To continue pushing the scholarship of this subject further, study needs to be done if particular ports had a good balance between a housing a naval fleet and then acting as a center of trade. Recent scholarship written on the excavation of the portus have supported data concluded from carbon dating techniques and advanced scuba diving equipment that allows for clear images to be taken. The challenges that fieldwork teams face while studying sites such as Portus Ulius range from an artifact drift, where artifacts in an excavation site are moved during storms and then transported to different areas within the harbor. With sand moving at unpredictable rates, sites can quickly become covered during the fieldwork sections, and the moving sands and the artifact drifts apart for the integrity of the excavation area to be called in question. Any questions? Yes.
So that's a good point that which way should research go? Why? What was the reason for the harbour at Baiae? Is it commercial?
It could be. I think it's still considered both commercial and a Navy harbor, because all the research that I found while writing this paper still pointed towards it could be either commercial or military.
Sounds like a very big job to build a complex that size.
Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
How deep are the harbors?
It's hard to tell because of all the seismic activity from the volcano in the years after the IED 79 eruption, and then also thinking about how much volcanic sludge has come off the mountain, the volcano, since then also will interfere with how deep the harbors were during that time. But they're still pretty shallow now if you're thinking about, you know, World War II submarines hitting the breakwater concrete pillars as well.